Okay guys, I want to go ahead and make a video with some further instruction for the subjunctive. It's a really difficult concept for us as English speakers, so I think it's important that you understand exactly what it is before you even attempt to conjugate the verbs. So what is the subjunctive? Well, what you've been dealing with so far has to do with tense, or when an event occurs on a timeline. So did it happen yesterday, today, is it happening in the future? This refers to when an action takes place, tense. Subjunctive refers to something that's called mood. We have the indicative mood, which is everything you've done so far, and we have the subjunctive mood, which you're starting with today. And this sort of reflects how the speaker feels about the action. We do have the subjunctive in English, but it's not as widely used as in Spanish, and it's not so wrapped up in verb conjugation. So what is the difference? Well, the indicative mood, everything you've done so far, is a mood that is used to express factual information, certainty, and objectivity, or fact. So here we have John goes to the store. Well, that's a fact. We can witness him going. I know that John goes to the store. I'm expressing certainty about that fact. There is no doubt that John goes to the store. I am expressing certainty, again, about that fact. The subjunctive mood, however, is used to express either uncertainty or subjectivity, which is more like opinion or an emotional reaction to something. So if I say, I want John to go to the store, the book describes this as expectation. I have the expectation that John go. Well, that doesn't mean that he will. It's not certain that John will go to the store just because I want him to. I use the subjunctive in Spanish. I hope that, there should be a that there, I hope that John goes to the store. Well, the book calls it hope, right? It's also uncertain. Just because I hope John goes to the store does not mean that he will. It is possible that John will go to the store. Here I'm expressing a level of doubt. It's possible, but I'm not sure. When I start to say things like it is good that John goes to the store, or it is important that John goes to the store, I'm expressing my opinion or my emotional reaction, subjectivity, to the fact of John going to the store. So with the subjunctive mood, what we're going to be doing is expressing either uncertainty or subjectivity. How do we form the subjunctive? This explanation should be clear in the book. It's very similar to the formal commands in that we start with the yo form of the present indicative. So hablar, yo hablo, comer, yo como, vivir, yo vivo. Then we drop the O and we add the opposite ending. If it's an AR verb, we use an E. If it's an ER or IR verb, we use an A. The reason we start with the yo indicative form is because there are a lot of irregulars in the subjunctive because we start with the yo present tense form where there are also lots of irregulars. So for example, the verb conocer. In the present tense, if I want to say I know, I'm going to say yo conozco, right? Well, I'm going to use that as my base when I add the opposite ending. Conozca, conozcas. Same thing for all of these verbs. There are also some irregular subjunctives that are irregular just because. You have to memorize them. So this is our list. There's just memorization. There's no pattern here. So the subjunctive of saber is sepa, sepas, etc. And then there's some issues with some stem changers. AR and ER just follow the same pattern as in the present, but the IR has an additional change in the nosotros form. This is just something you'll have to study. It's also explained in the book. And then you have these verbs where they have a spell change. And that's only because, for example, with this verb, sacar, it's an AR verb. If we just added that opposite ending, if it was S-A-C-E, it would be pronounced sase, which is not the word. The word is sake. So in order to reflect the pronunciation of the word, we need to have a slight spelling change. So when do we use the subjunctive? Well, in the book, in chapter 11, the book describes this as we use it to express expectations and hopes. And in a different section, we use the subjunctive to express emotions, opinions, and attitudes. Again, we can think of these as being under the categories of uncertainty and subjectivity. If I say something like, I hope you will do something, well, just because I hope you will study doesn't mean that you will. Just because it is important that you study, right? This is my subjective opinion about you studying. It is sad that he doesn't study. Well, I'm expressing my opinion about him not studying. So there are two conditions we have to meet in order to use a subjunctive form of a verb. First, we need to have two different clauses with two different subjects. So here, for example, I want you to study. Well, I'm doing the wanting. That's one clause. I'm the subject of that verb. I'm doing the wanting that you do the studying. Here we have another verb, different subject. Two different clauses, two different subjects. Yo quiero que tú estudies en español. So I want, yo quiero, que, always linked by that word que, tú, subjunctive, estudies. So we've met our first criteria. Check. I want you to study, two different clauses, two different subjects. The second condition we need to meet is that that first clause needs to express either uncertainty or subjectivity. If it does not, then we don't use the subjunctive. If it does, then we do. Dos ejemplos. Yo quiero que tú estudies. Yo quiero, I'm doing the wanting, that you're doing the studying, and just because I want you to study doesn't mean you will. Uncertainty. I've met my two conditions. I use the subjunctive of estudiar. Ejemplo número dos. Es triste que tú nunca estudies. Es triste que, this is an expression of emotion or subjectivity. It is sad that you never study. Well, two different subjects. This one doesn't have a clear subject, but the speaker is the one who thinks it is sad that you never study. You are certainly not the subject of that first clause. So, otra vez, subjuntivo. When there's only one clause and one subject, we use the infinitive. Quiero cerrar la puerta, por ejemplo. I'm doing the wanting, that I'm doing the closing of the door. I want to close the door. We only use the infinitive here. There's no que, there's not two different subjects. Deseo sacar buenas notas. I want to get good grades. I'm doing the wanting, that I do the getting of the good grades. There's only one subject here. But when there are two clauses, each with a different subject, and the first subject expresses uncertainty or subjectivity, we do use the subjunctive. Quiero que tú cierres la puerta. I'm doing the wanting, that you do the closing of the door. Just because I want you to doesn't mean that you will. So we use el subjuntivo del verbo cerrar, cierres. Deseo que mis hijos saquen buenas notas. I'm doing the wanting, that my children get good grades. So now we do have two different clauses, two different subjects, first one expressing uncertainty. Just because I want them to get good grades doesn't mean that they will. So here, let's look at these. What is the difference? In A, we have yo quiero que tú me llames mucho. Well, here we have I'm doing the wanting, that you call me a lot. Just because I want you to call me doesn't mean that you will. That's uncertain. We have two different clauses, two different subjects, so we use the subjunctive of llamar, llames. Me gusta que tú me llames mucho. Well, we have subjunctive here again. Why? Because we have two different clauses, two different subjects. First clause this time expresses subjectivity. I like that you call me a lot. So the calling a lot, whether or not that is in fact happening, is not the issue at hand. It is all about this first clause and what it is expressing. Estoy segura que tú me llamas mucho. Here we're not using the subjunctive, and why not? I'm sure that you call me a lot. Well, we have two different clauses with two different subjects. I'm the one who is sure that you are the one who's doing the calling. But I am sure, does that express uncertainty? No, it expresses certainty. Therefore, we do not use the subjunctive in the second clause. Yo sé que tú me llamas mucho. Again, yo sé, I know, certainty, not subjunctive. Yo quiero llamarte mucho. Here we have I want to call you a lot. Well, I'm doing the wanting, that I'm doing the calling. We do not have two different clauses and two different subjects. We have one subject here, so infinitive. Me gusta llamarte mucho. Igual. We have one subject. We use the infinitive. So let's practice real quick with these. Tú esperas que nosotros blank temprano. You hope that we come early. So are we going to use the subjunctive here? You're doing the wanting, that nosotros come early. Therefore, we do have two different clauses with two different subjects. Just because you want us to come early doesn't mean that we will. We do use the subjunctive. El verbo venir en el subjuntivo. Well, first you go to the yo present tense form. Yo vengo. Add the opposite ending. Vengamos. Nosotros vengamos temprano. I'll go ahead and give you guys the answers to these, and then you can work backwards and see if you understand why these are the answers. Ustedes prefieren que ellos no jueguen. There's a spell change. J-U-G-U-E-N. Jueguen ahora. Quiero mirar la televisión con mi mamá. Infinitivo, not two different clauses. Me molesta que los estudiantes no hagan la tarea. H-A-G-A-N. El médico le recomienda que beba mucho líquido. The doctor recommends to who? Well, we're not sure exactly to who, but we know it's a third party because of this le. El médico le recomienda que beba, subjuntivo, mucho líquido. Okay guys, I hope that makes it a little bit more clear. Good luck on the quiz.